All right, so are you ready to dive deep into teamwork?
Oh, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Perfect. Today we're going to be talking about teamwork and collaboration.
And we'll be using Simon Sinek as our guide.
Yeah, you probably know him from his Start With Why stuff.
But we're actually looking at a different book of his called Together is Better.
And this one's kind of unique, right?
Yeah, our source material for this deep dive is actually an episode of the Moonshots podcast.
Oh, cool.
And in this episode, they're talking all about this book,
Oh, nice.
which is really interesting because it's written as a children's book for adults. Like the illustrations are very simple,
Right.
but the message is powerful.
Okay. So what are some of the questions that we're going to be looking at today in this deep dive?
Well, we're going to look at things like, what does it really mean to be a team?
Right. Because we throw that word around all the time.
Yeah, like, is your team really a team?
Or are you just colleagues in the same office?
Exactly. We're going to be challenging you to really think about the dynamics of your team. And we're also going to be looking at whether someone like Simon Sinek, who is actually an introvert, can be a great leader.
Okay. So I think the first thing that we should do is unpack a little bit about Simon Sinek's background. Because the Moonshots podcast talked a little bit about that.
They did. They talk about his childhood and how his experiences really shaped how he views teamwork.
Okay, so like what specifically?
So they talk about how he moved across continents constantly when he was a kid.
Oh, wow.
And because of that, he had to develop resilience,
Yeah.
adaptability, and also this openness to differences.
Like you're constantly the new kid on the block, right?
We have to be.
You have to learn how to fit in all the
a-
time.
Constantly. So I think that's an interesting thing to think about, right?
Yeah.
How these early experiences might have influenced the work he did later on.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like a crash course in collaboration in a way.
Right.
Right. You're constantly being thrown into new situations with new people.
Learning to work together.
And you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's had this interesting background.
Yeah.
But he didn't actually set out to be like a leadership guru, right?
No.
Like, how did he become Simon Sinek?
The Moonshots episode mentions how he was actually really struggling early on in his career. And he was feeling kind of lost.
Yeah.
Until a friend basically encouraged him to try and define his why.
Okay, so he's struggling, and then a friend says, hey, what's your why?
Yeah. And from there, it just snowballed.
Yeah.
Right? He started sharing this why discovery with more of his friends.
Yeah.
And it really resonated with them. And it just grew organically.
So it wasn't like a big marketing campaign.
No.
It was just kind of like word of mouth.
Totally organic. Kind of an accidental success story.
Yeah, it's inspiring. It shows you that you don't need some fancy title or some big platform to actually start making an impact.
Right.
You can just start sharing your own experiences.
Right. What you're genuinely thinking and feeling.
Yeah, and it could resonate with people.
Yeah.
So one of the first things that I thought was really interesting in the podcast was this focus on the importance of real-world connection. They talk about this anecdote. There was a startup in LA where the employees were constantly instant messaging each other,
Right.
even though they were sitting right across the room from each other.
It's kind of crazy.
Which is hilarious, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I do that sometimes. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, me too.
But it just highlights how technology, even though it can be really great for connection, can also become a barrier.
Right. Think about it. How often are you sending emails when you could just have a quick conversation?
Oh my gosh, all the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like we default to these digital forms of communication, even though in the long run, it probably creates more work for us.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
And it's not even just about efficiency.
Right.
You lose so much in digital communication.
Yeah.
Like you're not getting those nuances.
Yeah, the tone of voice, the body language.
Exactly. It's like trying to have a deep conversation through emojis.
Yeah. Exactly. It's just not the same.
You can't build trust that way.
And that trust is so important when we're talking about teams, right?
Absolutely. And you know, Sinek, he really draws a distinction between true teams and colleagues.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
He challenges us to think about whether we're really part of a team by using his criteria.
What's his criteria?
So it's shared love, trust, a willingness to sacrifice, and then genuine joy in each other's success.
Okay. So shared love, trust, willingness to sacrifice, and then joy in each other's success.
Yeah, that's a high bar.
Yeah, that is a high bar.
And it makes you think, right?
Yeah, for sure. It makes you really think about whether you're actually experiencing that.
Yeah, you're just going through the motions?
Yeah.
Or do you have that deeper level of connection with your team?
And then, I mean, Sinek, he kind of drops a truth bomb here.
He does.
He says the biggest enemy of teamwork is our own ego.
Oh, I love that.
Right.
Because it's so true. Think about it. Like,
Yeah.
how often do our insecurities or our need to be right or our fear of failure prevent us from really collaborating effectively?
I mean, all the time. It's like this invisible force field that gets in the way.
Yeah, it really is.
And I don't think that he's saying that we have to, like, eliminate our ego entirely.
Right.
Because that's probably impossible.
Probably.
But it's about being aware of it.
Absolutely. Noticing how it shows up. Like,
Yeah.
are you quick to dismiss someone's idea
Yeah.
because it threatens how you see yourself?
Totally.
Or are you hogging the spotlight
Yeah.
instead of letting others have their moment?
Yeah. Such a good point.
So it's about stepping back and being honest with yourself about how your ego might be affecting how you're interacting with your team.
I like that.
Yeah.
Honestly assessing your ego.
Because, let's be real, we've all been there.
Yeah. I think that's something that everyone can relate to.
Oh, for sure.
We've all let our ego get in the way at some point or another.
Right.
And then another point that he makes that I thought was really fascinating
Yeah.
was this idea that focusing on your competition can actually be a trap,
Yeah,
that it can lead to short-sighted decisions.
it can. And he gives some really good examples, like the music industry.
Oh, yeah.
You know how they just totally missed the boat with digital music
Totally. Yeah.
because they were so busy fighting each other
Yeah.
that they missed the real disruption?
They missed the real threat, right?
We did.
Which was not another music company, but a completely different thing.
Totally different. And then another example is MySpace.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They were so focused on their traditional rivals,
Yeah.
they didn't even see Facebook coming.
Totally. And now look, MySpace is like a distant memory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So his point is that instead of focusing on your competitors,
Yeah.
you should really be focusing on your long-term goals, your dreams.
Play your own game, right?
Exactly.
Don't worry about what other people are doing.
Focus on your own vision.
Focus on what you're trying to build. And I think that ties really nicely into his point about finding your passion.
It does.
You don't just stumble across it, right?
Yeah.
It's the result of finding a cause that you believe in.
Yeah. Like he gives that great example of improving childhood education.
Right.
Imagine that's your goal. Wouldn't that generate some passion?
Right. Like you're not just working for a paycheck.
Yeah.
You're contributing to something that is actually meaningful.
Exactly. And that's what he's encouraging us to do, right? Find a cause that resonates with you.
Yeah.
Something that makes the world a better place. And let that fuel your work.
And then this next point that he makes, I thought was really, really powerful to illustrate the essence of teamwork. He uses an anecdote about Navy SEAL training.
Yeah.
And, you know, you would think that the strongest or the most outwardly leader-like recruits would be the ones that succeed.
You'd think so.
But that's not actually the case.
It's not. It's the people who support each other, who serve each other, that rise to the top.
Okay.
Which really challenges, I think, our conventional ideas about what strength and leadership really are.
Right. So it's not about being the loudest voice in the room or trying to like outshine everyone else.
It's about helping others.
Yeah.
Having each other's backs.
Yeah. And he connects that back to the workplace, right?
He does.
He's saying that when team members are focused on serving each other,
Yeah.
that's when they create a stronger, more resilient unit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's recognizing that your success is actually tied to the success of your team.
So it's not about me versus you, it's about us.
Exactly.
And that's such a powerful shift in mindset.
It is.
When you can really embrace that.
Totally. And what's really cool is that Sinek takes that idea of service even further.
Okay.
Like he talks about how it can actually create an entire culture.
Interesting.
Yeah, he says that individual acts of service actually cause a ripple effect throughout the team.
It's like that old saying, a rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you have a culture where people are genuinely trying to help each other out,
Yeah.
it creates this upward spiral.
Yeah, like a positive feedback loop.
Totally. And in the Moonshots podcast, they contrast this with what they call an ego-driven culture,
Okay.
which is where everyone's just looking out for themselves.
Yeah.
And that leads to this downward spiral.
Right, because then no one trusts anyone.
Exactly. And nobody wants to help.
It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It really is.
Like you can almost feel the tension in those kinds of environments. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone's on edge.
Yeah.
Worried about making a mistake or getting blamed for something.
It's exhausting to be in that kind of environment.
It is. And it also just kills creativity, you know?
Right, because everyone's afraid to take risks.
Exactly. They don't want to share new ideas because they're so worried about the consequences.
So Sinek's message is really a powerful antidote to that kind of negativity.
It is.
He challenges us to be catalysts for a service culture.
Yes.
Starting with small acts of support.
It doesn't have to be some big grand gesture.
Right.
It could be as simple as offering to help a teammate who's feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Or taking a few minutes to just celebrate someone's success.
Yeah, just those little things.
Exactly. It's about shifting our mindset
From what's in it for me
to how can I help?
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, what's really resonated with me through this whole deep dive is that this is not just about achieving some business objective. This is about creating a more fulfilling, more meaningful way of working together.
It's about tapping into that human desire.
Yeah.
To be a part of something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
To contribute to a shared purpose.
And when you find that, when you have that shared purpose,
Yeah.
it unlocks so much energy and passion.
It really does.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap of what we've talked about so far.
Okay.
We've talked about how important genuine connection is, even in today's digital world.
Yeah.
And how that is really the foundation for building a strong team.
Exactly.
We've also talked about Sinek's criteria for what actually makes a team.
Right.
And we've been challenged to think about whether we're actually part of a team.
Right.
Or just a group of colleagues who happen to work in the same place.
Yeah.
And we've also explored how our own ego can be the biggest obstacle to collaboration.
Totally.
But we've also said that there's hope, right?
Oh, there's always hope.
Once we're aware of our ego,
Yeah.
we can start to manage it and make choices that support the team instead of sabotage it.
Right. It's not about becoming totally selfless. It's just about recognizing that we really are all in this together.
Exactly. Our individual success is tied to the team's success. The Moonshots podcast actually ends their discussion with a clip of Sinek himself talking about how the success of his organization isn't about him, it's about the team.
The people who share his vision and contribute their talent to that shared cause.
I love that. And I think that that really highlights that shared belief aspect that Sinek is always talking about. It's not enough to just have the skills or the experience.
You need that shared conviction.
Yeah, that sense of purpose that ties you together.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the heart of Sinek's message.
Together's better.
Not just a catchy phrase, right? But a fundamental principle for how we achieve extraordinary results.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so now I want to bring this back to you, the listener.
Yeah.
How can you apply this to your own work, to your own team?
Yeah. Are you fostering a service culture or an ego culture?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Think about it.
Are you creating an environment where people feel safe to take risks, to ask for help, to celebrate each other's successes?
Yeah. Or is it every man for himself?
Think about how people interact in your workplace.
Yeah. Do they readily offer help?
Do they seem genuinely happy when someone else succeeds?
Are they willing to admit when they make mistakes?
Yeah.
Those are all signs of a healthy team.
Absolutely.
On the flip side, if there's a lot of finger pointing, backstabbing,
and just a general lack of trust,
Yeah.
that's a pretty clear sign that ego's running the show.
yeah. And that's not a recipe for success,
No,
no matter how talented the individuals are.
not at all.
So Senek's message is really clear here. If you want to build a truly high-performing team,
Yeah.
you need to create a culture
Yeah.
where people feel valued
Supported.
and empowered
Yeah.
to do their best work
Together.
together.
Yeah.
Now, how do we actually do that?
That's a great question.
How do we move from theory to practice?
From intention to action.
That's what we're going to be exploring in the final part
Yeah.
of our deep dive into Together is Better.
So we've talked about all the reasons why together is better, but how do we actually put this into practice?
Well, the Moonshots folks didn't have like a step-by-step guide, but they did emphasize some of the behaviors and mindsets that really contribute to this kind of service-first team culture.
Okay, so let's break that down a little bit.
Yeah.
What are some things that our listeners can do, like starting today, to really cultivate that together is better spirit?
Well, first off, it's all about leading by example.
Okay.
Just like Sinek himself, it starts with showing genuine interest in your teammates.
Okay, so like ditch the Slack messages.
Yeah.
Actually talk to people.
Exactly. Have those face-to-face conversations.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for a couple of minutes,
Okay.
make an effort to connect on a human level,
Yeah.
not just a transactional one.
Right.
Ask them about their weekend. their family, their hobbies.
Right.
Those little things that show you actually care.
It might seem insignificant,
Yeah.
but those little gestures go a long way, right?
They do, because it builds trust.
Yeah.
Which is really the foundation of any good team.
So that's one thing. What else? How else can we show that we're really bought into this idea of together is better?
Be generous with praise.
Okay.
And recognition.
Okay.
When a teammate does something well,
Yeah.
publicly acknowledge it. Let them know that you see their efforts and you appreciate them.
I think that's huge.
It is. It can really change the whole energy of a team.
Yeah.
Because people feel valued, and it just encourages more of that behavior.
Yeah, for sure.
And then on the flip side,
Okay.
when things go wrong,
Because they will.
they will, exactly.
Things are not always going to be sunshine and roses.
Yeah. Definitely not. So when things go wrong, focus on finding solutions,
Yeah.
not placing blame.
Okay.
Create that safe space where people can actually admit when they've made mistakes.
Right.
And learn from them.
I mean, that's how we grow, right?
Yeah.
Both individually and as a team.
Totally.
It's not about who messed up.
Yeah.
It's about how do we fix this?
Right, exactly.
And then something else that we can do.
Is remember Sinek's advice about asking for help.
Oh, yeah. Don't try to be a hero.
Exactly. If you're struggling, just ask your teammates.
Yeah.
Because chances are somebody has the knowledge or expertise that you need
Yeah.
to get through it.
It's funny. Asking for help can almost feel like a weakness sometimes.
You can.
But it's actually a strength.
It is.
And when you ask for help, you're giving someone else the opportunity to shine.
Exactly.
So everyone wins.
Exactly.
What else?
Celebrate successes.
Oh, yeah.
Celebrate each other's successes.
It's so easy to just get bogged down in our own work, right? And just kind of forget to notice all the great stuff happening around us.
Absolutely. So take the time to celebrate wins, even small ones.
Yeah.
It reinforces that sense of we're all in this together.
It's such a good point.
Whether it's a team lunch or a shout out in a meeting.
Yeah.
Or even just a quick congratulations email.
Right.
Those little gestures mean a lot.
They do. And we also can't forget about having fun together.
Of course not. Work shouldn't feel like a chore all the time.
Yeah.
Sinek talks about how true teams genuinely enjoy each other's company. So make time for team building activities, social events, or even just like a casual coffee break together.
Yeah, just hang out, get to know each other as people, not just colleagues.
Those informal interactions are so important for building strong bonds.
Okay, so it sounds like this is all about shifting our mindset from me to we.
It is. Recognizing that we're all connected.
Yeah.
And that my success depends on the success of the team.
And when you can really embrace that mindset, that's when the magic happens, right?
That's when you unlock true collaboration and creativity.
This has been a really great conversation.
It has.
I feel like I've learned a lot. Before we wrap up, is there one final thought that you want to leave our listeners with?
How about this? If you could implement just one of the ideas that we talked about today, which one would have the biggest positive impact on your team?
Okay. Yeah.
And then what's one small step that you can take this week?
Yes. Love that.
To start making it happen.
I love that. That's a great place to leave it.
Yeah.
And if you're listening and this conversation has sparked some ideas for you, we'd love to hear them.
Yeah.
Share your thoughts with us on social media. Send us an email.
Yeah.
We love talking about teamwork and what makes teams successful.
Absolutely.
So until next time,
remember,
together is better.
Together is better.